Whoa.
I need him in some of my budget meetings.
Oh, thanks, Shane. That was excellent fun. Yeah, five of clubs. I don't know where that one come from, but a lot of fun. And next up is an introduction from Agile. Thanks.
Now, I bet when you think of Agile, you think of these little black boxes sitting in offices or sitting in dusty back rooms or even sitting in factories, providing access to an ancient on-premises Citrix estate. Well, that's not the Agile of today, and it hasn't been the Agile of the past few years either. At Agile now, it's all about the edge operating system. It's all about providing a secure and sustainable OS to get access to your Citrix estate, whether or not it's on premises or, more likely now, in the cloud. So we have multiple reasons for Agile OS to be used in an enterprise environment. We've got a really secure read-only operating system. We have a very, very simple management infrastructure, which means you can manage devices even if they are still in the office or if they're being used remotely. We have the ability to temporarily convert BYO devices to become fully managed devices and fully managed operating systems while that user is accessing your Citrix estate. And we also provide you the ability to reuse existing and potentially older devices. So you can stop a lot of old hardware, a lot of old equipment being sent to landfill. So let's have a look at these different use cases and let's tie them all together into one key use case. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to reuse a really old thin client. In this case, it's a Dell 5020. This thing is about 5 to 6 years old, and I'm going to show you booting up using UD Pocket into Agile OS and then what that means for the enterprise.
So what I've done here is put a UD Pocket into the Dell 5020 and turned it on. The first thing this Dell 5020 is going to do is have a look at its USB ports and then see that there's an Agile OS device in there. So it will boot into Agile OS. And you can see here I'm running 1106.100, which as at the time of speaking is the latest version. So that then boots into Agile OS. Now this has been completely configured using our UMS or Universal Management Suite. And you can see on the bottom right hand corner I've got a little cloud that at the moment has got a line going through it. As soon as that line disappears when it gets network connectivity, it means that this device is now connected to our ICG or Agile Cloud Gateway. And that means we can now manage this device no matter what network it's on. It doesn't have to be on a VPN. This device can be completely managed over the air. So you can see I've got the Citrix icon there. I can just double click on the Citrix icon and then log into Citrix, into the Citrix workspace. And now you can see all my published applications and my VDI desktops. So I simply need to go down. In this case, I'm going to click on Server 2019. That should then run my Server 2019 published desktop. So that's going to load, and that's logging on to the Citrix estate. And then here we go. We have a desktop that looks and feels like Windows 10 because it's been skinned. It's as easy as that, though, to get access to reuse this old hardware.
Now, imagine that was a home user's device. Imagine that was a BYO device that was sitting at home that a remote worker was using. Now, usually what you'd want to do is try to manage that device. And that might be through a unified endpoint management agent, maybe from Intune potentially. But a lot of users, especially when it comes to BYO devices, don't want their devices to be managed in any way. The beauty of the Agile solution is that you can simply take a UD Pocket, or the end user, the remote worker, can take a UD Pocket and then put it into their device and boot up into Agile OS and get access to their Citrix estate without making any changes to the hard drive or the operating system on their device. That means whenever they need to get access to the Citrix estate, they simply plug the device in, boot it up, and then for the duration of their session, everything is managed by the organization. Their device is managed and the operating system is managed. Then at the end of that, they can simply remove the UD Pocket, reboot their device, and then get access to the operating system that was already there, whether it's Windows 10 or Windows 11 or Mac OS. It's all back to exactly the way it was before they put in the UD Pocket. So not only do you have security around that, you have the fact that while that device is in use for accessing your systems, you completely secure it. You also have the simplicity of managing using the Agile Cloud Gateway and the Universal Management Suite. You can push down policies in real time to that endpoint device. You can get a device inventory, an asset inventory. You can tell exactly what's happening on that device. And also, when it comes to reusing devices, as you just saw with that example of the 5020, instead of sending that device to landfill or sending it to be recycled, you can extend the life of that device, saving money on procurement and also protecting the environment. So Agile is absolutely a valid solution in the enterprise, especially when it comes to consuming your Citrix environment. Stay tuned. We've got several demos being run during the course of the day by my colleague John Millington, and they're going to be absolutely awesome. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Ben, for sure. Shane's a tough act to follow, but that was a great 5-minute window into what Agile can offer. And as always, please stop by their Agile booth for some demos, answer their questions, and get entered into the prize draws. Next up, we have one more sponsor introduction, so please welcome EG Innovations to the stage.
Good afternoon. My name's John Worthington. I'm the Director of Customer Success at EG Innovations, and I appreciate you giving me a few minutes to tell you about our company. From the early days of physical machines to virtualized infrastructures, public cloud services, and today's modern digital services, EG Innovations has been helping customers answer the question, why is my application slow? With the digital experience being key to a competitive edge, the digital workspace, whether that's located on your premises in a public cloud such as Azure or AWS, or whether it's a hybrid like Citrix Cloud, customers need a 360-degree view of user experience, and that's what EG Innovations provides. But since Citrix users voted this video a winner in the recent Citrix Ready Spotlight contest, I'm going to let that do the talking and then provide a few concluding remarks.
Citrix is redesigning the way how the future works. With Citrix Digital Workspace, we believe work is no longer a place. It's an increasingly dynamic activity. That's why the digital workspaces from Citrix are adaptable, offering employees freedom and security. Whether work happens on site, on the road, or in the cloud, Citrix gives you confidence without compromise. However, sometimes things go wrong. When a user complains of sluggish performance, it becomes challenging for a Citrix administrator to identify the source of the problem. EG Enterprise is a purpose-built monitoring and analytics solution for Citrix environments that allows administration teams to proactively monitor and troubleshoot performance issues instantly, even before users notice, thereby ensuring a superior digital workspace experience. Let's look at the 4 key areas where EG Enterprise helps Citrix customers. The performance of a Citrix digital workspace is determined by the experience it delivers to users. EG Enterprise measures all aspects of Citrix user experience. Log on and desktop launch times are measured by synthetic simulation. In addition, EG Enterprise monitors the real user experience by tracking every single Citrix session, providing several insights. When user experience is poor, what is causing this is the next question. To answer this, end-to-end visibility is essential. EG Enterprise has built-in expertise to monitor the performance of every Citrix workspace tier, and EG Enterprise monitors all the IT infrastructure services supporting Citrix. You can collect thousands of metrics, but where is the root cause? To determine this, EG Enterprise auto-constructs a service topology map, highlighting the dependencies between the different Citrix tiers and the supporting infrastructure. Performance metrics across all tiers are auto-correlated in real time, and the root cause of the problem is highlighted clearly. The value of a monitoring tool goes beyond problem diagnosis and troubleshooting. Trends of metrics collected can be analyzed across tiers, and insights obtained for optimizing and right-sizing your infrastructure so you can accommodate more users. If you want to make your daily routine more productive, you must move from reactive to proactive monitoring. EG Enterprise is a Citrix-ready verified solution that can help you achieve your Citrix user experience and ROI goals.
Now, besides thanking all of you who voted for our video, I'd like to make a few final comments. The deep domain expertise EG Enterprise has in all components in the Citrix stack, including Citrix Cloud, may be one reason why Citrix has selected EG Enterprise as the exclusive performance monitor for their major trade shows, and more recently for their global demonstration center. But the mission-critical nature of the digital workspace and our ability to provide total performance visibility into both Citrix and non-Citrix tiers of the digital workspace are also important drivers. A Forrester study found that almost all user experience problems relied on several parts of the IT infrastructure. We've independently verified that customers get rapid ROI on their investment in EG Enterprise, as well as significant improvements in their ability to proactively isolate performance issues. Customers can no longer afford to treat the digital workspace as just another technical silo. There's just too many moving parts to today's digital workspaces. The total performance visibility that EG Enterprise provides can enable a new kind of IT hero, someone that embraces transparency and moves your organization to proactive performance management.
Hello. I take it I am back on now. Or did that video very unexpectedly stop there? No, I'm bang on time. Right, anyway, thank you for EG Innovations. I apologize for my looking distracted as I came back on there because I was in the middle of wafting the door to try and let some air in my office because I'm currently being cooked alive because they have the heating turned up in here and I have 7 computers in here with me, which is fantastic. Anyway, don't forget to visit the sponsors, visit EG's booth, interact with their staff, and answer their poll for a chance to win a prize, because the reason we have all of this, as I keep saying, is because of our lovely sponsors. Now, next up, we have Rene Bigler. Rene is a sort of a guy very familiar to me because we did a series of presentations together last year. He is a Citrix technology professional, and he's going to present to us on Citrix Cloud optimization. So throughout his presentation, you can engage on the chat. You can put your questions in the question and answer tab, and obviously, the more engagement you provide, the higher your chances are to win a prize. So, Rene, it is over to you. I look forward to your content.
Thank you very much, James. So I hope everybody can hear me loud and clearly. I'm still blown away by the show of Shane. That was really, really impressive. I can't imagine how this can be done. Well, to something maybe a little bit easier. I'm talking this afternoon about Citrix Cloud and in special about Citrix Cloud Connection optimization. That's the topic of this afternoon. So thank you very much for joining my session. And let's start. A couple of words about me. James did an introduction already. So my name is Rene Bigler. I'm based in Switzerland, a small town called Thun in the Bernese Oberland, close to the mountains. That maybe he told me, or he mentioned, maybe I'm out in the mountains on the slopes, but there's no snow ready, so season hasn't started yet. I'm working in public education as a system engineer, system administrator in a higher vocational college. My main focus is end user computing, especially Citrix and all the surrounding technologies like Nutanix, Agile technology, FS Logic solutions, and so on and so forth. I'm a co-leader of the Swiss CUGC group together with Sasha Tomat. I'm a Citrix CTP, a Nutanix NTC, and a Agile Insider. Those are the community programs I'm involved in. Let's have a look at the agenda of today's afternoon. So I put together those topics for you. We will start with the question, why is optimization of your Citrix Cloud Connection a thing? At least, and then have a look at the basic traffic flow. How does the Citrix Cloud connection work? What are the parts involved in the Citrix Cloud solution? We're talking especially of deployment, of hybrid deployments here not fully cloud with running your workloads in the public cloud as well. So my main focus is running in a hybrid scenario where your workers run on-prem and you're just using the Citrix Cloud Management backplane. Then we will dive into the different technologies available from Citrix on this optimization part. We will especially look at the three main technologies, starting with a direct workload connection, then dive into the Rendezvous Protocol, which is a prerequisite for adaptive transport, so HDX over UDP, and then the last addition to the table was Citrix Service Continuity, and we will have a look at this also, and a short insight in a couple of other technologies that might help you with optimizing the traffic flow between on-prem and Citrix cloud components. First, let's have a look at this year's results from VDI Like a Pro survey. There was one question asking what are the biggest challenges in using or adopting virtual applications or desktops in public cloud. So maybe this was focused also on scenarios where you run your workloads in the public cloud as well. And as you can see here, number one challenge was creating a positive cost-effective business case, but also in a hybrid scenario where you're running the workloads, the workers on premises. Cost is still a thing, I think, especially if when it comes to the network traffic and so on. Then the second challenge was performance of the whole solution. It's a question VDI Like a Pro has asked in the years before already. If you have a look at this chart here, you can see that creating a positive cost-effective business case is going up since last year, last 2 years basically, and also the performance topic gets traction. Another question was which virtual desktop as a solution, desktop as a service solution are you using or will you introduce? As you can see here, the big player obviously that gets a lot of attention these days is Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktop, and then on number 2 it is Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops via Citrix Cloud. That's the second bar, and the third bar the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops via Citrix Cloud with benefits of Windows Virtual Desktop. So Citrix seems to be a big player, still a big player also in this desktop as a service game. So my first question was why optimizing your Citrix Cloud connection? I think there are 3 main points you want to have a look at these questions. There's obviously, we saw this in the charts, the cost point. Internet and gateway service bandwidth limits might come into play here. Another topic, how can we reduce the required cloud connectors, and with this reduce the number of virtual machines we have to run on-prem and maintain on-prem, so that the cost aspect might be one of the reasons to look into optimizing your Citrix Cloud connection technologies. And as you have seen, user experience is key in every virtual desktop solution, especially when looking at network connections. It's about minimizing latency and maximizing the throughput. And last but not least, first here on my slide, availability and resiliency. What happens if Citrix Cloud is not available? Or what happens if the internet connection goes down? Since we're talking about a hybrid scenario, we heavily rely on a stable connection between the cloud-hosted management backplane and the on-premises workloads we're running. By the way, is Azure up and running again since yesterday? I didn't follow it, but I think so they fixed it. Okay, let's start with the first look. For most of you, probably nothing new in here. In the basic traffic flow, when you put Citrix Cloud into service, basically just out of the box, nothing special configured. We have the Citrix Cloud management backplane. Then we have our on-prem resource location. We have a user sitting somewhere. He uses a device, whatever sort of device this might be. Then we consume from the Citrix Cloud management backplane the virtual apps and desktop service. That's basically the product we're talking about here from the Citrix portfolio. There's also the Citrix Workspace service involved. The Workspace is what the end user sees in his Citrix Workspace app, where he gets access to the published applications and desktops. And especially for this presentation here, we're talking about using the Citrix Gateway service to give access for external users to the workloads running on-prem. Then, as you might know, we need a connection because we're talking about this hybrid solution between the on-prem resource location and the management backplane run by Citrix. And that's the feature that's which the Citrix Cloud Connectors present to the solution. As you can see, the Citrix Cloud Connectors build a control channel between the CVAT service as well as the gateway service on the Citrix side. Then obviously we need some sort of a directory for authentication of the users. And we have our workloads, be it a published desktop, be it a VDI, be it a published application, whatever it is. So how does this workflow look when we go through the different steps here involved? In the first step, I mentioned it already, the Citrix Cloud Connectors running on-prem on your infrastructure in the data center on-prem. They build up outbound connection to Citrix Cloud, virtual apps and desktop services, and the gateway service. So the traffic flow is initiated by the Cloud Connector outbound to the gateway service and the virtual apps and desktop service. Step 2. Now the user comes into the play and he enters his or her credentials to access the Workspace Cloud service. So the virtual apps and desktop service authenticates the user with this entered credentials against the Active Directory, and for this matter, the traffic is going through this control channels through the cloud connectors to the Active Directory to check the credentials and look if we can give access to the resources for the user. Then the Workspace service displays the available resources from the virtual apps and desktop service to the user. he gets that's what basically in the legacy deployments does storefront, presenting the resources to the end user. When talking about Citrix Cloud, it's the Workspace service presenting those resources in the Citrix Workspace app or in the browser to the user. Step 5. The user selects a resource from this workspace. The virtual apps and desktop service sends a message to the VDA to prepare for an incoming connection. And as you can see, this traffic also flows through the control channel, through the cloud connector to the VDAs. The virtual apps and desktop service sends a launch ticket to the endpoint of the end user. The endpoint connects to the gateway service and provides the ticket for authentication, which gets validated by the Citrix Cloud, assuming now here it's the default deployment without any further configuration of direct workload access and so on and so forth. The end user always goes through the gateway service. The gateway service sends connection information to the VDA, going through this control channel through the cloud connector to the VDA. Step 9. The VDI establishes a connection through the cloud connector to the gateway service and launches the application. So that's basically a simplified diagram of how this connection workflow, traffic flow happens when you use Citrix Cloud as the management backplane with the Workspace service, the gateway service, and your workloads running on premises in your on-prem data center. So this introduces one first problem. The gateway service is used for every user. It is the same for internal users as well as for external users. So every user, be it the user on the left side of the slide, an external user going through the gateway service, the green arrow on my slide, as well as the internal user sitting in your local network in the company, in the enterprise, and having potentially direct access to the workloads running in his data center. The red arrow, he also goes through the gateway service. And also the HDX traffic goes through the gateway service. Doesn't matter if the user sits on-prem or if he is external. That's the default configuration coming out of the box when deploying Citrix Cloud. Now with a direct workload connection, that's the first technology, we can make a difference between internal users and external users. On this chart here, you can see only the external users go through the Citrix gateway service to launch his published apps or resources or whatever it is, while the internal user has direct access to the VDAs. And obviously, by this design, your traffic stays internal, goes over the local network with lower latency, no bandwidth issues, no cost involved in gateway traffic, internet traffic, no hairpinning traffic, and so on and so forth. How can we enable this technology? The direct workload connection setup is based on the public IP of the endpoint. So what does it do? It basically tries or allows you to differentiate between internal and external users based on the public IP of the endpoint from which the user is coming from. It optimizes this internal traffic and allows it to make a direct connection to the workloads. In the beginning of this technology, it was only possible to do the configuration via PowerShell, via a PowerShell module for the network location service. You had to download it from GitHub, create a secure client for API access, and then run commandlet to do the configuration, put in your public IPs you expect or you know when a user connects from over this public IP. He sits basically internal and has direct access to the VDA. One problem with this approach, and well, that's how it works. You have to be careful when you have to provide access over some sort of guest networks, be it a Wi-Fi network or a wired guest network, where you probably will close down the open ports to the VDA and give your users only internet access, like in an internet cafe, or we do it at our school for all the bring your own devices, where basically students only get internet access over the guest Wi-Fi and no direct access to the workloads. So the best solution, I think, would be if you can separate the public IPs and give your guest VLAN a different public IP than your real company-managed internal endpoints. That would probably be the easiest approach to differentiate here. Another option would be open up the needed Citrix HDX ports between the guest network and the VDI workloads. By the way, these days it's possible to do this configuration in the GUI as well. When going to the management backplane of Citrix Cloud, there's an option to configure the network location service, and it's as simple as putting in the public IPs, be it one single IP or be it a range or be it multiple IPs. And that's basically everything. And if it's put in correctly and your endpoints coming from behind one of these configured public IPs, and they have direct access to the workers, they can go directly without traffic routing through the gateway service. I mentioned cost is one of the reasons why looking into how to optimize this workflow connections to Citrix Cloud. One thing that popped up over the last month is there is basically a gateway service usage limit defined by Citrix. It isn't enforced these days yet. Nobody knows if it's coming or not, but obviously if you do some research, you will find that basically 1 gigabytes per month per user, meaning 12 gigabytes per user per year, is what you get with the CVAT service subscription. So over 3 years, it would be this 1,200 gigabytes a year, 3,600 gigabytes per year for the respective number of users. The the volume is pooled across all the number of licenses, so it doesn't matter if one user goes over this quota and another one stays below. Everything goes into one single pool, and the traffic is consumed from this pool. But I heard from a couple of other CTPs dealing with bigger customers that this 1 gigabyte traffic might not be enough to run everything, especially these days when a lot of people are working from home and not being at the office. Gateway Service Standard subscription also includes this 1 gigabyte per user per month, while it seems that for Workspace Premium Plus subscribers, it's 10 times higher. You get 10 gigabytes per user per month. As I mentioned, these days it's not enforced yet, but you have these new possibilities in the backplane to look under licensing and get a report of your consumption. You also can split it up and see then what is consuming the traffic. Is it workloads running through site aggregation from on-prem CVAT deployments, or is it the pure new Citrix Cloud workloads coming into here? But let's see how this evolves. It's just my thinking, why would Citrix put this into the management backplane to track if there's no idea behind it to make it a limited volume, that's a traffic volume, and probably there will be some, sooner or later, some additional licensing packages to expand those 1 gigabyte traffic volumes. So this was the first technology, Citrix Direct Workload connections, and obviously when not going through the gateway service, you won't consume from this pool of available bandwidth here. Next approach is to implement the Rendezvous Protocol. Let's have another look. We can go faster through this slide because you know it already. It's basically the same as we talked before. We have the Citrix Cloud Management backplane, we have the on-prem resource location, we have a user, we have devices. We're talking about the virtual labs and desktop service with the Workspace service, the gateway service, cloud connectors, Active Directory, VDIs, and also the workflow, the flow of the traffic flow is basically the same as we saw it before. The authentication, everything is similar or is identical. The authentication goes through this cloud connectors, through the control channels. Nothing new here. User authenticates, also the enumeration of the available resources are the same. So basically everything as we saw it before. And the difference is in this last step here. Now the traffic for the active session doesn't have to flow through the cloud connectors because the VDAs initiate or have their own direct connection going directly through the gateway service. So there's no need to tunnel all those traffic through the control channels going through the cloud connectors. And depending on the number of users on the traffic, it might help you in reducing the number of cloud connector VMs, obviously. Save some licensing on this side, save some maintenance cost on this side as well. So this is another approach to optimize the cloud, Citrix Cloud Connection, the Rendezvous Protocol. How can you configure this? In this setup with the Rendezvous Protocol enabled, allows now the HDX sessions to bypass the Cloud Connector and establish a direct connection with the gateway service. Some details about the configuration. VDA has to be on 1912 or later, I guess. The Rendezvous Protocol is disabled by default and can be enabled with a Citrix policy. Obviously, for this solution to work, the workload machines, the VDAs, need access to this gateway service resources out on the public internet, including every single subdomain that's used by the gateway service. There's a CTX article listing all those addresses that come into play with the gateway service. You see it on the left side. I'm not sure if it's on the latest here or if there have been some additions lately. So especially if you're not allowed to do an allow list with wildcards, it might be a bit clumsy to always keep up to date with those new URLs. If Citrix introduces some new gateway POPs, that's something to think about. So the cloud connectors leverage the FQDN of the VDIs. So you have to enable this. There are two options: enable DNS resolution via the PowerShell, or have a DNS reverse lookup zone with PTR records in the for the VDIs in your domain name service. There's also a fallback mechanism implemented with Rendezvous, which obviously makes sense to choose this fallback option. So if there's no there's a failure or Rendezvous doesn't work, it will fall back to the legacy or the regular connection going through the cloud connectors. Rendezvous Protocol is a prerequisite for the next technology, EDT. That's basically HDX over UDP. What's needed for this? In addition to Rendezvous having up and running, you obviously need to have internet access over UDP 443 between the client and the gateway service. Shouldn't probably be a problem here. Adaptive transport has to be enabled or had to be enabled in a Citrix policy. I think these days it's enabled by default. I'm actually not sure. I have to double check it. And there's also an option to set it to preferred or diagnostic mode. So diagnostic mode enforces the EDT traffic flow. And if it doesn't work, the session launch fails. If you set it to preferred, it tries to connect over UDP 443 and falls back to TCP if it doesn't work. Also a good idea with the latest VDA, I think it's enabled by default, is to enable the MTU discovery on the VDA side by this registry key. But the latest one, 2109 VDI, I think it's enabled by default. In early days, you had to reorder the Cipher suites. That's not necessary anymore. And depending on your network layout of your users, depending on the carriers your external user use, there might be an issue with very low MTO sizes because MTO sizes below 1380 will probably never work, and the connections will fall back to TCP only. How can you check and see which protocol is in use in your session? Well, the easiest is have a look at director. There you can see on the protocol, if you see UDP, obviously it's HDX over UDP, it's EDT. You can also track here the ICR latency, round trip times. You can also see over which gateway POP the user is connected, and you can see depending on the protocol how the session has been started over which connector, basically. It's when it's not UDP. Another option is to use Remote Desktop Analyzer. In the latest version, you get this information from here as well. Active Transport Protocol, here in my example, UDP with Rendezvous. As you can see here, you also have the other numbers in addition to the most important thing that the Remote Desktop Analyzer provides to you, the frames and bandwidth and CPU consumption and so on and so on. There's also a CLI tool, the CTX session -v command you can run, and then you get the information from there as well, and can track and see what's the protocol in use for your session. Okay, next technology, service continuity. The latest addition from Citrix. Citrix says service continuity is basically a collection of different technologies that is designed to ensure users of Citrix Workspace to still have access to their apps and desktops in the event of a network disruption or internet outage, preventing connections to Citrix Cloud. There are really a couple of different technologies implemented by Citrix to make this happen. It's on one side, it's a mechanism based on those workspace connection leases stored on the endpoint of the end users, and those leases can be used to authenticate an end user that when some services are not available, and with this cached connection leases, he can still start a session from his endpoint, even if there are parts of the service is not available. Another technology that is used here is the progressive web app functionality to show also those cached information inside of the Citrix Workspace app of the available workloads, published apps, desktops, whatever it is. And the third part of the service continuity service is basically this global deployment of Citrix Gateway points of presence, which have the possibility to fail over. So if one gateway POP is not available, the end user gets rerouted to the next best point of presence. Let's have a look at the different scenarios. What happens if some parts are not available? First one, workspace URL cloud.com store is not available. In case of the workspace URL being not available, Citrix Workspace app shows a banner to inform the user about this possible outage, and allows him to reconnect or try a reconnection. And if that's not possible, he still gets presented the cached resources and can launch them from there. So if Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop, the broker service has an outage, the user can still access his web and SaaS apps if, in addition to the CVAD resources, if we're talking about the Premium Plus features of Citrix Workspace. The Workspace app displays the resources from this cached information via the progressive web app technology and uses this connection leases for the CVAD resources. Brokering and load management in this case happens on the cloud connectors. They basically jump in and take over from the cloud brokering service and do the brokering during this outage. What happens if the identity provider is not available? Well, in this scenario here, with an external identity provider, in my case, it's Azure Active Directory. If the identity provider fails, the user still has access to the CVAD resources that are accessible via cloud connectors. Since those connection leases are available for the authorization of the end users. However, the single sign-on might be broken and the end user has to do re-authentication on the VDI itself. So in my scenario, when implementing with a federated authentication service, and there's this gap with the double prompt for the authentication. What happens if you have an internet outage? If the client's internet connection fails, but there's still an internal network connection available, the internal users still can access the on-prem VDI resources by leveraging a direct workload connection. And the last scenario, what happens when gateway service has an outage? As told already, in the event of a failure of the gateway service, POPs, a failover to another point of presence takes place, and the user gets rerouted. I think those POPs are growing. You can see they're spread over multiple public cloud providers, AWS and Azure, over different geos. And as you can see here, there are more and more coming on, probably in the next months or years. Let's have a short look at those connection leases. You can find them on your local endpoints in the respective directory mentioned here. By default, those leases are valid for 7 days by default, but you can customize them in the service continuity configuration in the Citrix Cloud Management backplane. That's here, where this can be adjusted between 1 and 30 days. And enabling service continuity is basically very simple. It's just flipping this tick box from disabled to enabled. I think we can go through this a bit faster. This here displays the flow of Workspace connection leases generation in a regular scenario. Everything is up and running, so those connection leases on the bottom left are created, updated, and stored, cached on the end user endpoint. In the case of Citrix Cloud is unreachable, the Workspace connection leases are used if they're present on the endpoint devices. And if the Citrix Cloud is unreachable, Workspace connection lease based on session launch for an internal user can still go through the direct workload connection and start the resources. There are a couple of system requirements. Maybe I will just point out some importance. Today, only one user per device is supported, so shared endpoints are not supported yet. The connection leases are tied to the user and the endpoint. You can't roam those connection leases. That's one limitation, maybe an important one. Browser-based access was for quite some time not available with this technology, and now there's an extension for Chrome and Edge Chromium available, the Citrix Workspace web extension. If this is installed on the end user's endpoints browser, it's possible to use the technology also via the browser and not only via the native Workspace app. A couple of other system requirements and limitations. Don't go through everything. On the VDI side, there are also some things to consider. Maybe especially Citrix Cloud Connector should be designed to handle the traffic or the workload during an outage, because it jumps in for the brokering here. And last two slides from my side, there are also other technologies like browser content redirection to optimize traffic here, Citrix Teams optimization, and Citrix WAN technologies that can help with optimizing your network connection between on-prem and cloud. Browser content redirection, as you know it, Teams, as you know it. And SD-WAN, maybe just pointing out here that might be an interesting solution to keep those public IPs up to date. It can be configured to automate this handling of changing public IPs for direct workload connection. That's from my side what I had to present to you. So I think my time is up. Are there any questions?
There were a couple of questions, Rene, I saw creeping in. One's already been answered in the chat, so you're off the hook with that one. Somebody's asking, the Rendezvous Protocol is dependent on the number of users. What is that number that it's dependent on?
What is meant by number of users?
I don't know, I'm just reading. Did you actually say the Rendezvous Protocol has any dependency on number of users? It does say, if I heard you correctly, so it may be that it was somebody getting the wrong end of the stick. No dependency on number of users.
No. I don't see it.
Yep, that's fine then. If that's answered that one, that really was actually excellent content, that, because I've been doing a lot of Citrix Cloud myself. And are you going to make those slides available at the end?
Sure.
So you can save me some work, because those are the sorts of questions we get asked, right? A lot, you know, and you've got to come up with the. So it's nice that you've gone out there and collated it all together. That's excellent. Thank you very much, Rene. Don't forget, be sure to join Rene's roundtable later to continue the conversation and ask more questions if you wished. And up next, we have Felix Alvarez for an introduction of ControlUp.
Hi, James, and thanks for having us. I'm happy to actually, continue the long way that ControlUp has with CUGC, and I'm happy to show you the latest and greatest bits of ControlUp today. I actually only have limited amount of time, so I'll jump right into it and will share my screen for a second. While I'm doing that, I can only encourage everyone to visit our booth. It's open the entire day, and you can, jump in the chat, ask us questions, schedule a demo if you want to see more, and we're happy to show you everything with more time. But to get like a little sneak peek, I hope that everyone can see my screen now. And I'm actually showing our brand new Solve web dashboard over here that gives you all the great new Control App features that we introduced over the course of this year. We actually introduced a lot of new stuff, and I want to give you a little sneak peek of what that actually means. So the dashboard itself is quite new for all of you who are familiar with this console. It's still there, but of course we have a now way more scalable and nice web dashboard at your hand that will allow you to work on much bigger environments and with more colleagues without having to worry about local resources at all. It gives you a lot of new features and capabilities. One that I like to point out for the start is our great capability to actually build custom dashboards. So I don't have configured the Citrix dashboard yet. What I want to show you here is like you can actually go in and select from all of the Control App metrics that you might already know, and basically build exactly what you need for you and your team. You can basically choose the visualization that you want to use, as well as the specific metric, the scope, and so on and so forth. And basically there is not much limitations in building these. Also, it's even easier now to drill into every situation that you want to check out, right? So if you see that, for example, you have critical stress somewhere here or here, you can easily, jump into it. Just click on it. It's super easy, like navigating through a browser, and you will immediately see where you have issues and what you need to do there. Also, we introduced something new that I like to show you real quick, which is our new feature for actually home office users, right? I am one myself right now, as you can see in my background. And we do have this great functionality that allows you to agentless provide these informations from the local home network, and you'll find it very easy to troubleshoot these situations. Whenever someone says, "Ooh, my Zoom, Teams, whatever is slow," you can basically see if the local Wi-Fi, for example, or the local network is the root cause of that, and can really even help in these home office situations with just a click of a button. And you have everything at hand in one single console, of course, everything in real time. And when I say real time, this is of course not the only limitation. Of course, we do offer historical data as well, and we make that historical data more easily available with our new web dashboard. As you can see, these little clocks everywhere, and if you want to get details about some history here, just click the link and you'll see you can go 24, 80, 48 hours, back and see historical data in the same spot, so to speak, which gives you more context around that and help you to see if that's something that you need to troubleshoot urgently or not. We do also offer more modules now, and as we have very limited time right now, I will just briefly go over it. We have a great new module which is called HDX that gives you the ability to really drill down into the endpoint itself, no matter if it's a thin or fat client, no matter if it's Mac, Linux, or classical Windows. We'll make it available for you, and you can then really drill down into the end device and monitor and manage it the same way you did it with Control App before for your infrastructure within the data center, so to speak. And lastly, our Scout Bees model also got some new features. Will above of having tests on the EUC part of the house, you can now also drill down into the network and see if you have issues in your WAN or in the network area. And having said that, I know there's a lot more to talk about, but my 5 minutes are almost over. And again, please, check out our booth, say hi, schedule a demo if you want to see more. We are happy to show you more of the latest and greatest features. So thanks.
That looks very interesting, actually, particularly that visibility into the end user device stuff. So my interest is now peaked, and I should be going along to control it, but asking them to show me that, because that's something that we do a lot of pandemic-wise, having to deal with the sort of vagaries of end users' connectivity issues and things like that. So, as Felix said, visit their booth, ask their staff questions in the chat, and answer their poll questions as well, and increase your chances to win a prize. Next up in the lineup is an introduction from Login VSI.
Hey there, this is Blair Parkhill, and I'm on the product management team here at Login VSI. I wanted to quickly introduce you to the concept of shift-left testing and how it can dramatically reduce production issues related to your digital workspace solutions. As I'm sure you're aware, the technology stack for workspace solutions is very complex and can take years to master an optimal working condition. But just because you were able to get it working optimally doesn't mean it will stay that way, as any and all of the components in the technology stack can change on a frequent basis. It's our nature to consume change slowly because it feels safe. But when it comes to software, safety lies in staying current. Staying current means digesting changes on an almost daily basis. In 2019 alone, the Windows 10 operating system had over 1,200 changes, and that pace is only picking up and has probably doubled on an annual basis by now. Shift-left testing refers to an organization's ability to consume as much change as possible during a development cycle. This helps to reduce the opportunity for a change to break the system when it has been pushed to production, where these breaks can cost the organization a lot more money. In a modern DevOps solution, it's common for an application to follow a continuous integration, continuous development cycle, or CI/CD. With continuous workspace engineering, the same applies. As an example, you can test a new version of Windows with all of your productivity and business-critical applications in a quick application compatibility test. In less than 10 minutes, you can determine which applications still work with the update and which ones do not. Once the desktop images are solid, you can then see how these changes will stack up from a performance perspective. Every service branch release of Windows will have a performance impact on the underlying solution, and in most cases, the update will require more resources to run. To find out just how much different the performance is, a quick single-host load test can show you if the update is faster or slower than before, giving you an opportunity to perform optimizations and speed the image up. Once the image is fully compatible with apps and runs quickly, it's not a bad idea to perform some user acceptance testing by diving deeper into the applications to make sure they're not only compatible, but have also not introduced any issues with your users' workflows. The next step is to then test the updates at scale, which will surface bottlenecks in the system throughout the entire technology stack. At this point, you have now consumed all of the changes for this given period, you've mitigated any compatibility and performance issues, and you're ready to push these changes to production with confidence. Of course, there are factors in everyday life that can impact performance and availability, like data center utilization, network utilization, changes ISPs have made, and other updates that happen outside of your development process. The best way to catch these before they become a problem is to push lightweight testing to the edge. By running tests from predetermined locations outside of the data center, it's possible to catch issues and deal with them before they impact your remote production workforce. As an example, let's take a look at the performance of a cloud desktop, where testing was started Friday afternoon and run continuously over the weekend and into Monday to observe the performance during low utilization versus Monday morning's high utilization. You can see that the login times increased slightly over the weekend, but during Monday morning's rush, login times dramatically increased and became very spiky over that time. So maybe you'd like to know how Login VSI can help. Login VSI has been a standard in the VDI test and benchmarking market for over 10 years. Our virtual users and Login Enterprise testing platform make it easy for you to do your continuous workspace engineering without the need for real users. In fact, you can do your application compatibility testing to see which applications aren't running or aren't running fast enough. Load testing to see how many sessions your solution can accommodate before performance tapers off. And continuous production testing to be the first to know if logon times or application performance and availability have been impacted. All with Login Enterprise. In less than an hour, you can have tests running against your desktop and application resources. To get started, all you have to do is go to www.loginvsi.com and click on the Start Free Trial button in the upper right corner of the website. That's all for now. Thanks for your attention. Have a good one.
Excellent. Thank you to Login VSI for giving us all of those details there. As mentioned previously, make sure you check out their booth, get more information, engage with their staff, and answer their poll questions to be entered into the sponsor booth drawing. Now, next up, we have another member of the CTP family, Chris Twist, or Trieste. I never pronounce people's names correctly, Chris. So please correct me if I'm butchering your surname there. I do.
It's Twist.
Twist. There you go. There you go. It sounds like a very posh person saying twist. Twist. I'll now remember that properly. He's going to show us how to build micro apps, which should hopefully be really, really cool. So please ask questions in chat. Chris, take it away, please.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen with you guys. Let's go with this screen. I believe that you will be able to see my screen. Let me do presenter mode. All right. Yes, I'm gonna talk to you guys for 40 minutes, 45 minutes or something about micro apps. And I can talk a lot about micro apps and I can do a lot of slides. But we are just gonna do a few slides and then I'm just gonna build a micro app from scratch. So this is something that that you can do, that everyone can do. So yeah, let's get to it. I'm Chris East. I'm technology officer at Rawworks. I have a blog called workspaceguru.com, and like James said, I'm a member of the CTP community. I work at Rawworks. We have 41 professionals working for us in all sorts of matters like workspace code, applications code. And we do a lot with micro apps and helping other customers, but also partners with micro apps. So what are some of, I want to quickly talk about why you should use micro apps or where you can use micro apps. Looking at the challenges that we see is users' experience shifts from IT workspace to a user workspace. So users want a more user-centric workspace. It's something that you hear a lot, but that really means that the workspace must enable the user to work faster and better and more efficient than it was that IT decides how the workspace looks. So one way to do that is make sure that they have one work from one application. So within the portal, they have their all the applications are in one user portal, like the Citrix Workspace. And what we want to do also then is start complex processes from any device, which means within that portal, start like a process like onboarding or any other self-service directly within that one application, that portal, and making work more efficient. And micro apps help with this. So if we take a quick look at some of the vision on the workplace near the future, what we see is that at least this is true for the Netherlands. A lot of our customers are in this. They see that they used to have a centralized VDI or published desktop environment. They had it on thin clients. Everyone went to the office. You guys remember that, right? That you drove in your car, went to an office, turned on the thin client, and you had your session. Well, today everything is a little bit different. We are getting back, of course, to a bit going to the office, but still, it looks like we are doing way more from home. And what many companies have done is they got rid of their thin clients and put in laptops. But the digital workspace has often not changed. So that means the workspace that was there on the thin clients is now the same workspace they are opening on the laptops. And the user environment of the user experience of a published desktop on a laptop is just not great. So how can we match that better if we look to tomorrow? Well, we think, at least at Rawworks, and I personally think that starting work with an intelligent workspace portal is the future. So an intelligent workspace portal should not then give you a published desktop, but it should give you direct access to SaaS applications and published applications if it's still needed. And it must be a smart portal that helps you make your work more efficient, like we talked in the last slide, and get to those goals. And the micro apps really help with that, making that portal intelligent. So this is something that a lot of customers are struggling with today, that they are combining that old workspace with laptops, and users are just not really happy. One of the things that you also see in this is, like with the introduction of Microsoft Teams, that everyone now has to work from home and use video calls, that they are now encouraging users to do that locally on the laptop. But that means that they have to switch between a full published desktop on a laptop screen, right? It's 13-inch or something, and you have your full published desktop, then click on minimize the full published desktop and go to the local applications like Microsoft Teams. And that is something that a lot of companies are struggling with. And yeah, the Workspace portal helps with that. So that's the first step, making sure that you are in the Workspace portal, because then you can just switch between local and published applications, SaaS applications. Like for end users, they don't see the difference between published and local and SaaS. It's all just there. And then enabling that portal to work smarter really makes the efficiency more better. So some of the opportunities that we see for micro apps is onboarding and self-service. So you can, with the micro app, you can create workflows within any self-service tool, or just make your own workflow from scripts and then put them in Azure Logic apps or whatever. And then you can present them to the user throughout the micro app. So the micro app is then the GUI for the user to start the self-service without being in the Workspace portal and then first having to click to go to a self-service portal. Because I think that is also not a good user experience. That if you say, yeah, we have 3 portals. We have a portal for a ticketing system. We have a portal for the apps and data. And we have a portal for self-service. That's not the one app principle. That's not the best user experience. So combining those, well, micro apps can help. If you already have a self-service portal and it has an API, you can move those self-service workflows to the micro apps. With healthcare, we see that micro apps can really help with combining data from different systems. So combining data from Outlook, from Office 365, Exchange Online with data from Epic, that kind of stuff. With governments, we really see that governments are struggling, that they have a lot of different applications. So I work a lot with municipalities, and a lot of municipalities have more than 100 applications that users have to switch between a lot. So that is not efficient, and we want to make it more efficient. So what are things that we do with Rawworks? We have technical solutions for our one app and one click. What I already told you is we create sometimes our own workflows and then create an API for that workflow. We call this API as a service. So you want to run a PowerShell script on a domain controller. Well, you cannot do that with an API, but we can create that API that can run that script. Or we also have a database connector which can connect to like an Oracle or SQL database, connect to that, connect the data to our API as a service, and then build a micro app. And we do this all from DevOps. I quickly want to show you guys one business case, and then we're just going to build the micro app. So this is a micro app business case we did at a customer. And so what we did with this business case was actually just lower the bar. So users had to do like 4 clicks to enter a ticket. So they first had to go to the workspace, then they had to click on top desk, then they had to click on self-service portal, then they had to click on I want to create a ticket for the IT department. So these were 4 clicks, and we replaced them by 1 click just in the portal, directly create ticket. And what we noticed, so we created the micro app to do that, just within the 1 click. So we noticed that it was fun to see that there were 3 times more tickets being logged by users themselves again, so from the self-service. So that meant that the people were less on the phone at the IT service desk to get tickets because users were doing it more themselves. Because we lowered the bar by a few clicks. And something that was really fun that we also saw was there were more tickets being logged. So because the bar is lower, people were easier to log a ticket. And that is something that you want as an IT department, because you want to have the insight in your environment. So that is a cool business case. What I gonna show you guys now is I'm now just gonna build a micro app, just completely from scratch. I'm gonna show you how you can do something like that. What I'm doing now will be really fast. If you want to watch it back, I have this URL on YouTube. You can also search on YouTube for build a basic micro app, and you will get the same thing I'm gonna do now in a half an hour, but then in like 40 minutes, and you can pause it and copy and paste stuff so that you can build your own micro app when it suits you. So please, this is the YouTube link. I will try to get it in chat to you guys too. Let me quickly do that. Let me just put it in the comments here. So it's in the comments, so you can watch it there. And now we're just gonna go, I'm gonna quit my PowerPoint. Now we're gonna pray to the demo gods because I have not recorded anything. So this is gonna be all live. And yeah, here we go. So I wanna build a micro app that shows the latest news to my end users. And what you need to remember for a micro app is a micro app requires an API. And it requires that, and what an API is a way to get data from one system to another system. So I have here a news website, and they have a free API. It's called News API. You can get a free instance of that, and they will give you news from all kind of different data sources as a JSON format throughout that API. So for a micro app to have the news, we have to have a data source. In this case, it's the news.api will be the data source, and we need a way to connect the data to the micro apps, and that is done with the API. And News API delivers an API. So if we look at documentation, we can here see they have different endpoints. Like everything is just all the news you can get. And you can even see that they have some query parameters you can use. I don't know if I can change it here. I cannot, but I can show you later. But what do we want? I want to have the top headline. So give me the latest news, the most exciting news. And you can see this is the API call to get to these JSONs with news. And you can see again here, they have clearly marked there is a query parameter you can use to set up the country of what news you want. So let me, it also has a query parameter for the API key. Well, this is my API key. I created it for my account. You can just create your own account and create an API key. One thing I like to do with APIs is I like to copy the GET request and put them in Postman. Postman is like a web browser, but it does not have a GUI. Postman is a web browser, but it's specially designed for APIs. So let me open Postman and open a new tablet, and then within here I can paste the API call and I can click send, and it gives me back the data I want, the news. So this is cool that with Postman you can test APIs and you can make your APIs calls. And here it automatically also splits out my query parameters. So what I can also do is like I can enter another country code like NL where I am, and I get the latest Dutch news. So I'm gonna put it back. Let's put it on UK. I hope that that's the correct code. No, maybe Great Britain. Yes. Okay, so that we have English news so that everyone can understand it. But I don't want to have US news because we are in the EMEA, of course. So let's take Great Britain. So this will be my API call, and this data I want to build a micro app for my users for. So let's copy the call, and we are going to the micro app part. So when you sign into the Citrix Cloud, you can just click on the micro apps if you have them licensed. If you don't have them licensed, but you do want to try and test this, if you go to developer.citrix.com, there is a part in the website in which you can request your own trial. You get a 30-day trial of Citrix Cloud, including micro apps and a gateway, and the trial can be extended. So I have a trial which I have been extended, which we are using internally as our development environment. It's also like a developer's trial, and we have been extending that for 2 years or something. So you can just, that's a way that you can have your own micro app environment. In the YouTube link I shared, I even go a bit deeper into that on how to set it up. But for now, I'm just going to show you the micro apps part. So if you want to get more information about that, check out the YouTube link. So we're going to click on Manage Micro Apps. And this sometimes happens. I have to click which customer I'm in again, no problem. And we're going to create a new integration. Well, Citrix also has some templates. So maybe the application you want to use already has been integrated and built by Citrix, or it must be something that you have to create from scratch. So that's also possible. Let's look quickly at the Citrix template. So these are all templates that Citrix already created for you that you can just start with, fill in the API key, and you got your micro apps. And there are micro apps from partners. So like here, there's Virtual Metric micro app, and it's built by a company called Roberts. So these are pre-built, ready to go, fill in your API key and go. So I'm going to click on Add Integration, and we're going to build our custom own micro app. So we're not going to use a template. We're going to use the HTTP service, and we call this the news. We need to fill in a base URL. You can copy the API, that's a quote that we got, but it's important here I'm going to quickly copy this part. But it's important to do the base URL as short as possible. So the shortest URL as you can get, and which is this. That's because you can have different endpoints on this same URL. So it's good that you put it as small as possible. We need to set up authentication to our URL. Now, the news has the newsapi.org uses an API key. I quickly copied that, as you saw. And the API key that it uses is a query parameter. We can also see this in Postman, like API key is a query parameter. So I can copy it from here as well. Can just copy the word API key. What's the name? API key. And what's the key itself? Well, this is the key itself. Awesome. And now, because I saved this, then every request that I'm going to make within my micro app to this URL will automatically get this query parameter added. So at all my data endpoints and everything I'm going to build in the micro app, I don't need to enter this key anymore. That's smart. We can give it, let's give it a nice icon to make sure that we know it's the news. Let's do these bars. It's cool. And I'm gonna edit. So it will now save this integration. And what we need to do now, the next step is we need to make a data loading endpoint. So we need to get the data from the news API to Citrix. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna create a data endpoint. And oh, this is a question that you might have. Why do you need to create a data endpoint while the data is already in the API? That's a good question, Chris. The answer to that is Citrix caches the data within their micro app system, and it does this to make sure that the micro apps respond really fast. So not that someone click on news and that it first has to get all the information from the website, it gets it directly from Citrix. So now you might say, aha, so that is also something to think about security-wise, that your data is being cached in the micro apps. And yes, that is true. So think about that. Which data do you want to share with Citrix Cloud? Remember, Citrix Cloud is hosted, if you want, in the EU. So you can get the EU instance, which is most likely be hosted like in Azure and in the Western region of Azure. But Citrix has a data, oh, geez, how do you say it in English? They have a document showing how they handle your data. You can get that on the website and check it out by your security officer. And so know which data you're going to share within this endpoint with Citrix. Short sidebar. Let's get back to it. So we're going to give this endpoint a name, and I'm going to call it top headlines because, hey, that was the name of the endpoint at the news.api. And now we're going to copy the endpoint name. And so this first part is now already filled in because that was our base URL, the newsapi.org. This last part, it will automatically add the API key, like I said. So I only need to copy this little part. So I'm gonna copy and paste that. And now we have the same thing here. And as you see, one of the features that I asked for a lot within micro apps is the ability to also show the query parameters if you enter them here automatically, like Postman does. And since a couple of months, they have added this feature, and every time I see that, I get a smile on my face, like, yes, guys, this is the way to go. So good job, Citrix. What we now can do, and which is really important, is test if the API call is working. So we're going to execute the request, and lo and behold, we get news back. So that is awesome. Now, Citrix needs to know how are we going to structure this data. So this data needs to be in a database cache in Citrix. So we need to set up this database, and we do this with generate tables. And what we can do is just directly fetch it from the API. There is one little thing that's not great about this API, and that is that the articles that you want, so you want this data, you want the article data, but they are in a separate object. So it's best to do a root path to articles. Not all APIs have this, but you can check it out if there is something like this. Then you know, because I don't want the result data, I don't want the status OK data. That's not something I'm going to show my end users. I want to show them the news. So now I'm saying skip that stuff and go directly to articles. And let's generate the tables. It will now automatically look what content is in that object, in the articles object. And now we need to assign a primary key. So it's a database, and it, of course, needs a unique key. Well, one thing that is unique with all these news items is probably the URL. It will be really strange if a URL for two different news items have the same URL. It cannot be. So we're going to take the URL, and one thing I'm also going to change is the content. It gets maximum of 255 characters. That's a bit short for the whole news item. So I'm going to up that to 1,224. And I'm going to save this, and I'm going to press add. Now, what's happening now is Citrix will start synchronizing this data now automatically. So if you go back to the news, we can see there's no synchronization schedule, but because I saved it, it will do one synchronization. And let's also put in a schedule. So how often is the data in the cache refreshed by the original API? Let's put that at, I don't know, 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, look if there's new news. One thing that you need to check out is, for example, the news API, the free version allows you to do around, I think, we can just look it up, guys. So if we look at pricing, the free one allows you to do 100 requests per day. So if I'm going to put this at a minute, I already have 60 an hour. So I can run the API for 2 hours, and then my API key says, I'm not working anymore, you're using too much. So if you put it at 15 minutes, that should be fine. I'm going to save it. So now we also have a schedule. And that's it. If we now look into our integration that we built, and we look at tables, here we can see the data tables that we created, the data endpoint. And it should have data. I don't know why it says data not yet. Let's do a manual synchronization just to be sure with it starting. It's scheduled, cool, and it's finished. So now it should show data if everything is correct. Yes, okay, so now we have news messages in our database in Citrix in the cache, so that's awesome. Now we're going to build the microwrap, so that is the thing that the user will see. So we have now the data, and now we're going to put that in a microwrap. And the microwrap is the GUI for the user. So let's click on Add Microwrap. And this will add a microwrap. And let's start and edit this microwrap. So first off, what we want to do is we got pages, location, properties. I always like to start at pages. So first make a page and show you guys or show what the user is going to see. What I want to do is I want to make a page called a detail page. So that will be just one news article. So this is an article. It's going to be a detailed, and here it asks which data source it needs to use. Well, this is the data source we just added, so it's the news, and which table. So the top headlines is all right. Now we can select the fields that we are going to show. Let's just take the author, the content, the description, publish time, source ID is not really necessary, the title, source name, the URL, and the URL image. Let's all fill this into a page. Let's see. So now we got a lot of stuff here, and let's make it a bit more readable for our end users. So let's put the title on top and the author. That's cool. Now we can see that the content and the description are kind of the same, but the content is like a summary and stops here. And the description is, I think, for our users a little bit better, because if they want to know more, they can click on the URL. So we're going to remove the content part. We're going to keep the description. The publish, well, this is not really readable for the user at what time, but here we have a format option. So we can say this is a date-time format, and it will become something that is readable to a human. The source, that's cool. And the URL, that's also cool. But what we want to do with the URL is make it clickable. So what you can do is when you go to something here, you can click on the site on action and make a go to URL, or go to URL. And now we need to insert a variable because every news article will have, of course, a different URL. So we need this variable. And now it will ask me, okay, so where is the data then? Well, it's in this URL, insert. So it's really easy. It just goes to this URL and now it's clickable. We also have a URL to an image. This article does not have an image, so that's a bit sad, but I do want to create it that it is there if it does has an image. So maybe another article we picked up will have an image. We're going to check soon. For now, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to take here from the left side, I'm going to take the display image. I'm just going to drag it in. So this is also cool. You can drag stuff in. And maybe something that is also good to drag in is like a back button that you can go back to the full news. Because what we're going to present the users is a table with all the news. And then when they click on a specific article, they will get to here. So we were also busy with the image. And now we need to select where the images are. So I'm going to say URL to image. Those are the data column for the images. Like I said, this article does not come with an image, so that's a bit sad, but it's no problem. And let's make it a large. So probably another article will have a image, so it will be all good. Let's also add a line divider between the title and the author, or let's do the little bit even lower between the description and then a line divider like this. So now we made it a little bit more nice. Let's do the image a little smaller, I think. Yes, I can now preview the page, how a user will see this page. So it's really click and drag and drop, and you can create something that the user can read their own or the news article. And again, this I am going really fast, I know that, but you can all watch it back in the YouTube video that's there, and you can just pause it and figure everything out from there. But just to show you how easy it is, I'm doing it pretty fast and to be on time. So the next thing I want to do is now create a page that will be the start page of the end user. So that will be a table with all different news. So these what we'll call top headlines. And we're going to select the top headlines. And here I'm only going to select the title. And let's do a published ad date, set fields, ad. So this will be now a tabel. Let's also make sure that the columns with the column with published ad is formatted as datetime. It is already, so Citrix knows it about this itself, so that's really great. And one thing I want to do is I want this to be linked to the action, the article. So this means that we now have the few details behind here, so we can click on these items and go to the article. So if we preview this, it's really easy. You see, you can just click it and it automatically understands what you want to have. So now we have all these news articles, and if I'm sorry, this sometimes happens. If I want to read something about Apple, I can click view details. And as you can see, this article does have a nice image. And now the back button makes sense, right? Why did I add a back button? Well, this is why, because I want to get back to this table. So the last thing I do want to add to this is a search bar, so that people can search throughout the article. So I'm going to get from the input, I'm going to get a text input, and I'm going to call it search. And now what we want to do is that the filter the table on what people enter here, so that it will search the table. And how do we do that? We click on the table and we do set filter, and we're going to make a new filter. So top headlines filter throughout the title contains something that you put into the search field. Awesome. So if I'm going to test this out now, I think I can test this on the website. Yes, it works. So I'm searching for Apple, and here I get something Apple. If I'm going to search for COVID, maybe there's a headline with COVID. I have not checked it. Yes, there's a headline with COVID. So this is cool. My search is also working. Now we need to, I'm going to do two more things. I want my users to get a notification when they are when there's a news article. So this is for the timeline in the Workspace portal. You have a timeline as user, and there you can put in news, or you can put in notifications. So I'm just going to do a new record. So new news, we call this. So if there's a new record in our top headline data table, it will generate a notification feed. We're gonna call this notification with, the title, we're gonna use a variable because I want the title of the article. So here we have the title of the article, and for the body, I want to have a variable, I want to have the description. So I get, so a user will get the news here, and it will automatically give this news article. And you know what? I even want to have a image with this. So if it has an image, like some news sites have image, yes, some don't. This also don't. So okay. And if people click on the notification, I want them to go directly to that article. Now, one thing, I want to do it for all subscribers, but one thing you do want to add here is the expiration. So this is always good when the underlying record is not there anymore. So if the news item is not there anymore, you can delete it. But you also don't really want to clutter someone's notifications up fully. So I'm also gonna put it like, well, 2 hours after the card is created and the user has not clicked it away, just delete it. It's just headline news. One thing you want to do is automatically run this event after the integration data change. So every time it's synchronizing those 50 minutes, it will check if the data has changed. If it's changed, it will give a notification. I'm going to save the notification. Well, and now the last part we need to do is at properties, we need to, here we fill in how the user will perceive this micro. So we're going to call it the news micro. I'm just going to call it the news. And as a description, I'm calling it Great Britain News. I think I made an error. Britain, yeah. Application icon, you can give a icon. There are a few icons you can select from, and let's just do it I don't know, let's just pick the first icon. Now we have to set, so this will create a button, but we have to set which button, or by pressing this enable as action, it will create a button in under actions in the Workspace portal. And now we need to say which page does that button lead to. So I'm going to put it to top headlines, and I'm going to save this micro app. And if we now go back to our integration, you can see we have the micro app, but there are still no subscribers. So now we need to assign it to a user. And we are going to do this by clicking here on the 3 dots and clicking subscriptions. I'm going to search for myself. Hopefully it finds me. Yep, there I am. And let's test this out. So let's sign in as a user. I'm going to go to my Workspace portal, my Citrix Workspace portal. I'm going to sign in with my Azure Active Directory. Fill in my password. Of course, do my multi-factor authentication. Nope. And if everything went correctly, then now I should have a, under actions, I should have the news, and I got that. And here I see all the news items that are there. And I can, as a user, click on a news article and get information about it. And I can even click on the URL to go to the full item. Let's also see if there are some news items. Yeah, the Apple one has the image. Not all APIs deliver a image, so that is something that is a bit, yeah, okay. So this one has an image too. And again, I can click on the URL and I can see the news article. So this is just a quick demonstration from my site on how you can easily create your own basic micro app. And I think that that's it for me. So I don't know if there are questions or.
I don't see anything specific, Chris, in the chat. That was pretty mind blowing. I think we're definitely going to have to watch that one back in slow motion and on YouTube to get the full.
I know, yeah.
On there, yeah.
Yeah, it went a little bit fast, but I will also be later sitting at a round table. So if people have questions, we can interact there.
Exactly. Yeah. So yourself and Chris will be joining your round table after the next presentation. So yeah, there could be some interesting conversation there. It's such a powerful feature now in the Workspace app, and can really see some customers taking advantage of that going forward for sure. So thank you, Chris, for that. And next up, we have an introduction from Stratodesk.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Rich Severson. Welcome to the CUGC and Stratodesk presentation. We're going to do a quick overview of what Stratodesk is, or who Stratodesk is, and then we're going to go into some of the technology features. What is Stratodesk? Stratodesk is the leading global innovator in end-user computing management and OS software for VDI endpoints. So what does that mean? So there's No Touch Center, the management platform that's used to manage No Touch OS, a very secure Linux operating system built by Stratodesk specifically for VDI and endpoints. So it's a very secure Linux operating system, No Touch OS. So No Touch Center and No Touch OS combined make No Touch Desktop. That is Stratodesk. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to, like I said, I'm going to do a little bit of PowerPoint, and then I'll show you some of the features. Obviously, we've got limited to 5 minutes, so we're going to go as quickly as we can. All right. With 4.5, we introduced the new role-based access controls, and the new role-based access controls are going to give you the No Touch Center administrator the ability to create different roles, different users, different groups, and give the ability to have specific controls over specific devices, identities, and groups. But the most important thing about this is the fact that it's going to enable us to have true multi-tenancy within No Touch Center. For those that are MSPs and service providers, we're going to want to be able to have multi-tenant architecture within No Touch Center, which of course is part of the reason why we've introduced the No Touch Center REST APIs, where you have the ability to do that and create those via scripted access. Also within No Touch Center 4.5, we introduced multi-factor authentication via RFC 6238. The key thing here is this gives the administrators the ability to control access to No Touch Center using one-time passwords, tokens, authenticator applications, whatever your favorite access security is. So it enhances the security of access to No Touch Center. For those that are even, whether they're public or private instances of No Touch Center, having the ability to introduce and bring this into No Touch Center takes No Touch Center one step further as far as security. Also in the 4.5 release, we've introduced the No Touch Center REST API. This is going to be something that people are going to find very useful. We presume probably the MSPs are going to find this very powerful, but basically it gives us the ability to interact with the No Touch Center using the REST APIs. And in the next slide, you'll see there are several samples of what can be used and the things that are going to be coming within the REST APIs for No Touch Center. Okay, so there you go, right? Obviously, we get the usage of NTCLI. We can set up different names, get different values, provide different features, functions. Basically, anything that you can do within the UI of No Touch Center, you will be able to do with No Touch Center REST API. Okay, this one I'm really proud of is we now have No Touch Center available natively in the Microsoft Azure Marketplace, right? So think about this. So for those customers that are wanting the ability to be able to deploy a cloud-hosted instance of No Touch Center rather than going through some large exercise of trying to figure out how to import VHDs, etc., you can go to the Microsoft Azure Marketplace, search for Stratodesk, and you'll be able to do that and launch it right there from there. It'll take probably 2 to 3 minutes. It's a tremendous offering. Custom icons. This is one of the things that people have been asking for a while. Is, you know, in the case where you may have multiple connections, multiple Citrix connections, those kinds of things, you can now put custom icons on those connections to be able to differentiate line of business applications versus CRM type applications, those kinds of things, right? So you have the ability to do full custom application icon support, including favicon support. So for those that are doing browsers and those kinds of things. That's pretty much everything as far as the PowerPoint. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into No Touch Center demonstration. Okay, so what I've done is I've jumped over to No Touch Center and I've kind of shortcutted a little bit here and jumped to the roles-based access control, and I went to the roles and the users. Here you can see I've got an A admin and a B admin, and I've got an A tenant and a B tenant, right? So again, having the different role-based access controls, you can separate those tenants and those users to be able to do that. I'm also going to jump real quick, again, given the fact that we're limited in time, we're going to go to admin as a user. I'm going to go to account settings, and you see here, this is where I can turn on the multi-factor authentication, configure the token one-time passwords. Okay, so that's about all the time we have for today. So sorry for making it so quick, but with a 5 limitation, that's about as far as we can go. So hope that helps. Again, you know, all the new things with No Touch Center 4.5. If you have any questions or anything, certainly let us know. And obviously, all the information is available at the Stratodesk website at stratodesk.com. Thanks and have a great day.
Okay, so thank you, Stratodesk, for that nice 5-minute overview. Again, everyone can visit your booth, schedule demos, make sure to answer their poll question and fill out the sponsor presentation. Be sure to visit all 6 booths to be in with the chance to win our Amazon gift cards. And you must visit all 6 booths by 2:45 p.m. We'd like to just reiterate and thank our sponsors for sponsoring this event. So please do spring by their booth, interact, engage with them, ask questions about what you've seen in their short 5-minute presentations on stage. And with that, we'll wrap up with our final technical presentation of the day. So we have Niall Connolly, who's with Citrix, and he's going to be presenting on Wrike and the future of work. Hey, Niall, how are we doing?
Hey, Ronnie, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Happy days. So let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see that. That looks all good. Ronnie, that clear to you? Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Katie. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is an absolute pleasure to get here to present today, kind of Wrike, Citrix, future of work, and kind of CWM and where it all fits in together. As Ronnie said, my name is Niall Connolly. I am one of the technology specialists, and I'm based out of the Center of Excellence in Citrix. So what the COE essentially does is not only assist with positioning Wrike internally and building out different templates and blueprints for our teams to work effectively using Wrike, but we're also external facing towards customers. So building out the tailored POCs and having kind of discovery calls with customers to see where CWM can fit in and essentially their future of work. So we are the internal kind of subject matter experts on Wrike. A quick look at the agenda of what I'd like to cover today. I do like to make sessions as interactive as possible. So please feel free to stop me, ask any questions you may have. What I'd like to cover is the kind of the why and the what of Wrike. We'll take it from a foundation level and just discuss Wrike, where it fits into the work and the future of work. I want to look at 2 key capabilities. For example, Wrike Integrate and Wrike Analyze and where they fit within the portfolio and how organizations use them. We'll discuss, this will lead us into lines of business. Where does Wrike essentially fit? We'll see some case studies in relation to this to large organizations that I think will be well known of how they're using Wrike. And then kind of, to be honest, my favorite element of the topic today is why Citrix and Wrike and essentially the passion for what I do and why I love the position where I am at the minute and we'll finish with a little demo that will tailor towards the kind of Citrix Cloud migration, and we'll look at managing quite a complex project with lots of moving parts, quite easily and manageable through Rike. So we will take it that we all really haven't heard too much about Rike, so we'll take it from essentially the very beginning. But if we look at collaborative work management and kind of this era of kind of SaaS, cloud applications, I think companies, and we can all agree, are doing a really good job of improving employee experience and giving them access to better tools. And I think Office 365 is a really good example of this. However, the caveat to this is how work is executed and managed. It kind of falls onto individuals, teams. It's on them to decide how it works. So each manager essentially must determine how their team works, how new work is distributed, how it's going to be assigned, and then how are they going to track the project. And if we have a small enough team, maybe 3, 4, 5 people, it's probably not the biggest challenge in the world. But as we move into kind of larger organizations and we go kind of cross-team collaboration, it becomes kind of a lot more cumbersome, and it's a much harder element to track. So this kind of backs up the current state of work and where we are at the minute. And this is personally what I've seen as well before I started using Rike in my day-to-day. And if we break current state into 4 main pillars and we look at intake, so this is how we take in projects, how do we assign resources to these projects, how do we collaborate on the individual tasks and projects, and then how do we report on this? So if we take the first one, intake, how do we take projects in? How do we take tasks in? Typically, we're looking at maybe Teams, emails, could be something along the lines of ServiceNow. And I think that's similar for assigning resources. Slack, email again, typically action items at a meeting. That's always a big one I've had. Excuse me. And then collaboration. How do we collaborate? To be honest, it depends on the person. Some sales reps may ring you, WhatsApp, different people may be Slack, different people may be Teams. I think there's just a range of tools that are used for collaboration. And then if we look at reports and analytics, I think the thing with this is we're using a lot of applications. So it's really hard to get clear and concise information in one single source of truth. So we use 5 or 6 different applications. We work across different teams. How do we pull that into a single source of truth? And it's probably meetings, pinging team leads, PowerPoint presentations, building out Excels, stuff that's typically kind of time consuming and a little bit static. So this is kind of the current state of work. This is personally what I'd seen through kind of any work I've done. But what we try and do with Rike, and what we do quite well with Rike, and something I've seen now with my work, is we manage the entire lifespan. Okay, so a project all the way from intake to execution, to assigning resources, to the ability to collaborate on particular tasks, can all be done within Rike. And we do give you that single pane of glass, the single source of truth. And what I really like to do is compare it to Citrix Cloud. It's that single source of truth where we can generate visibility into reports, we can look at analytics boards, and give somewhere to consolidate all their work for all our employees. So we're taking in projects, we can create projects, or we can use request forms. It's nice, the request forms can be internal or externally facing. We can assign the resources, so we will have all our employees within the right database, so we can see who essentially is the right person for the job. And a small piece with Rike is the ability to collaborate on individual tasks. It's small, and it's kind of, when you think about it, it's relatively straightforward, but it keeps information relevant to the people it needs to be relevant to. So if we kind of look at something like a Citrix Studio policies, and we have that task within a cloud migration, that will be typically something that's done in emails or Teams before. And I've lost emails that have come into me, I've lost information in Teams. And if I'm talking to a colleague on a daily basis, that information is just going to drift away. Where if we have this individual task with essentially a news feed built into it, we can talk about the Citrix policies there, and it's just keeping it relevant to the people it essentially needs to be relevant, and it's easier to find that information then. And then touching on the point that we do all this work within Rike, so we have this single source of truth, so it's much easier to generate clear insights. We can get reports, we can get what's overdue, what's coming up, and we essentially have this BI tool built into Rike. So you've kind of seen where we're looking at in relation to the current state of work, how it's been for me, where Rike fits in and what we're trying to do. And a question that kind of always comes up is, wrong screen, is PM tools versus CWM tools. And this question comes up a lot when we discuss Rike, and I think it's something we can address early. And if we look at the likes of project management tools, and we can see on this slide here, project management tools are very good for project managers. Well, the feedback we've kind of got, what we find is they do lack support for operations, and they're very niche in their solution. Okay, so if we look at CWM in relation to this, CWM space solves a lot more issues. You can help manage operations. We've gone down to the granular level of the individual task. So we can collaborate on the individual task, and it's more of a whole solution. And I think what's resonated for me and some of the feedback I've got from customers is PM tools have their place and they're very niche in their solution, but CWM is for everyone. And I think we'll touch on this later on when we talk about lines of business and where essentially Wrike can fit in. But I think that's just what resonates with me is the more holistic approach we could take with CWM and how it is for everyone. So the versatility of Wrike and why do we use it and why is it such a good platform? Essentially is we cover these 5 areas of full visibility covering all work, any team across all workflows and the full configuration. So when we look at full visibility, managers, executives, any team members can get full visibility into what work is getting done. Okay, this can come all the way from tracking action items to full portfolio visibility. So essentially, there's no more chasing down the right person for status updates or questioning what's going on in emails or having these what can be essentially unnecessary meetings. We can pull it all from Wrike. We can cover all the work form, okay, from a simple to-do list, which I have set up in my personal environment, to managing an entire project. So we look at the Citrix Cloud migration as well, and it can cover anything from that point of view. It is for any team, and this is something that resonates quite a lot with me, and I really like this point, is I'm someone who's an engineering background, so Gantt charts are typically what I'd like to see, and it's how I like to do my work. But we all work in unique ways, and I think that's what makes working with teams and different people so important and so adventurous, really. What I like to see in Gantt charts, someone else in my team might like to see in board view. And Wrike gives the ability to have a unique view for all members of the team. But what's so important is what you see in a board view and what I see in a Gantt view, at the task level, they're exactly the same. So we can still change the workflow the same, set dates, get approvals, and collaborate all in the same, but the overall view is different to suit the type of person. I think it's a very important point, and it's nice to see the different views would be lists or tables or board or Gantt charts. It is there for everyone. And it's always nice we have the integration, which we'll touch on in the next slide, to kind of integrate across all workflows. So your Salesforce, your Jira, your SAP, your ServiceNow, you have that ability. And then with the full control. So configuration and customization, it's easy to do. Granular security and access permissions. So scaling to other teams without cluttering someone's landing page can be quite easily accomplished using Wrike. So we've looked at Wrike, we've looked at where it fits in, how it's slightly different from PMs and kind of some of the versatilities of it. But what I want to focus on now is just some of the functionality. So the first one we'll look at is Wrike Integrate, okay? And as we move on, I think we'll go into more detail on this, and I think the most important aspect of Wrike Integrate is that it's an integration and automation platform. Okay? It's not just connecting to any one particular tool, it's about telling that full story for an organization. So it allows bi-directional workflows between Wrike and other tools within the organization. Like, this is helping to solve issues of using lots of different tools. I won't say it integrates with every application, but it does integrate quite a lot. And we can add custom automation inside Wrike again. So it's an extremely powerful tool to connect the whole organization. And I think if you look at this slide here, the yellow text resonates quite a lot with me. We can go wide across multiple applications, but we can also go deep into any one integration. And I think the message of customization is important to all customers because they all use their own tools. We all have our own workflows, but even especially so when we look at enterprise customers as well, and enterprise organizations, they want solutions that can be used widely, so across multiple teams, yet in the way that each team each way their own particular teams work and need to work. So that's when we talk about the kind of any app, we can customize the team, and we can also connect to on-premise application. So I think that resonates quite a lot with me, that it goes wide across apps, but it also goes deep into particular applications. And I think we have 400 pre-built connectors off the shelf as well, so integrating to applications can save a lot of time. Where when we look on this slide, it is kind of a low-code workflow. So we do have these pre-built connectors, so we can connect essentially to most apps without writing the code. So I think we can all agree, if we have these pre-built connectors, that's a good opportunity to save time and money. And something I really do like about the Wrike Integrate is the pre-packaged recipes. So within the Wrike community, we have recipes which have been shared by customers. We have recipes which have also been shared by Wrike Professional Services, where if we look at like an 80-20 rule, we all have our own way of working. So if we have a Wrike and Salesforce integration, where if someone in Salesforce wants a POC, it'll create a project within shared services, for example. That may be already set in Wrike, but it may be already set in Wrike by another customer, but it may be slightly different by creating certain projects or certain titles. Whereas the bones of the recipe will be there for us to use within the community. But again, we can tailor the last 20% to suit exactly what we want to do within our organization. And you can see it here and how it's potentially set up. So we will have a trigger. You can see new account in Salesforce and the certain actions that will follow. So it's always going to be built off triggers and actions. So, and we can use a multi-app workflow as well. So it's not just a single, maybe Wrike in Salesforce. We can go Wrike Salesforce, and you can see here that will also create an issue in Jira, and you can post a message onto Slack as well. So it's connecting multiple applications within the organization. Good. Just so, before I move on to Wrike Analyze, is there any questions? Do feel free to keep them coming in the chat. I am keeping an eye on them. And we will move on, and we will look at Wrike Analyze. So the second feature is Wrike Analyze. So essentially that BI tool within Wrike. And I'm happily go on record and say Wrike Analyze is one of my most favorite elements of Wrike. It's an extremely powerful tool, so helpful for organizations to get a clear view on the type of work that's being done. And there is a good example for this in the demo later, how we can look at a project status. So I think in the title you see, like, we can create powerful, diverse reports, dashboards to provide deeper visibility into project progress, and we can perform all this with an analyst. So if we look at someone like PMO or project manager or program managers, Wrike Analyze enable managers to build highly customized advanced reports, which are in line to their specific use cases. And I think that's what's so important here, is the customization that can be done within Wrike Analyze. So this gives the managers of particular teams deep visibility into project progression and the performance of the team. And I suppose then if we take one step above that and we look at maybe department heads or VPs, with Wrike Analyze's powerful and kind of analytical capabilities, data can be transformed in ways that best represents the progress and performance of projects and teams. So within Wrike Analyze, we can also write formulas and calculations. And I think there's 15 different ways to visually represent data, which ensures results are both meaningful and digestible across the organization. And I think the bold text capsulizes it quite well in this slide. We've got powerful, diverse reports. We've got greater visibility. It is this BI tool essentially within Wrike, and it represents data more effectively, which of course is important for any organization to have clear and concise information. So if we look, next slide, the kind of pre-built dashboards, and I included this because this is typically the ones that will come across and the conversations which happened, and we look at, say, the project portfolio overview. This gives a larger view of how the projects in the portfolio are performing. So this is looking at kind of VP level, department heads. They want to see every project that's going on, say, within the PMO space. So they will get a visibility on all projects, what projects are overdue, and how they're assigned across the team. So it's a full look, essentially, at one of the organizations. And then if we look at project status, this is taken one step down. So we're looking here at, say, project managers, how they can view the analytics about the status of tasks, the portfolio, project or sprint level. So it gives them better ideas into how tasks are being managed for each project. And again, this is an example we will touch on later in the demo, and we'll get to see it. And then the last one, which typically comes up, is the productivity analysis. So program managers can view analytics relating to changes in tasks over time, and this better assesses project and team performance. And I think the big thing with this is essentially finding those bottlenecks. What particular area is slowing us down in particular changes? Do we need additional resources here, or what may be the issue? So it gives us great insight into how the organization is going. I think we've seen Wrike Integrate, we've Wrike Analyze, and again, I know I have 45 minutes, but we could spend a lot of time talking about kind of the features within Wrike. But these are two kind of fantastic features, in my opinion, that I did want to focus on. And as we move on and keep kind of progressing towards lines of business, I think something it's always nice to address is the mission critical trusted security within Reich. I've just have one slide on it here, but I don't think any of us are having conversations now where security isn't the main concern. The way the world is working now has completely changed. This slide does speak to it a little bit, but I would encourage everyone to go to reich.com/security to go through the different security elements. But I think this slide is warranted included in any kind of presentation or discussion around Reich, where you see the kind of SOC compliance, the ISO certifications, our uptime. We've got data centers in US and EU. And I think it comes back to the statistics on the right-hand side. Okay, so the average data breach costs 3.9 million. So it's always something of at the forefront of our mind. And I think it's important to let that known to anyone who's looking to use Reich. We take it extremely serious. Within our team, we have security specialists who go into a lot more detail than I can, but it's just always something I like to address and show that it is a forefront in our mind as well. So where we've kind of come from is the current state, how we're using multiple applications, where Reich fits in. I did like looking at kind of Reich Integrate and Reich Analyzer, showing two of the strongest features, should we say, within Reich, and then some of the security elements. But who essentially is Reich for, and who will be the ones that will use it? And it's a question that does come up a lot. But essentially, Reich is for any team. It's for any department of companies that are simply just trying to work better together. So Reich can be used by every team across the company. And we believe that work travels between teams and organizations. And this is something I've done even from the time I started in education. I've always wanted to break down silos. It's important that every bit of the organization knows what's going on to a certain degree around in other elements. So we break down these silos and the organizations can work as one. When we look at Reich, it's essentially any project or any task that's a start and end date that may involve some collaboration. I think we can all agree that's 99.9% of everyone within an organization can look at using a tool like Reich. Something we realized that a unified workspace must connect the systems to where work lives. And we've seen with Reich Integrate, we've seen with the current state. Currently, work happens across multiple types of applications. I think it's including email, instant messaging, document sharing. But when you look at Reich and the core platform, and again, we'll only touch on the kind of very kind of first level of today, but it enables people to initiate progress, organize work, streamline work. We can automate, we can review, approve, analyze. This can all be done in one place, but it also integrates the likes of G Suite, Outlook, and we've Reich Integrate. So we can integrate with solutions of Salesforce, Adobe Creative Suite, ServiceNow, Jira. So essentially Reich can be for anyone within the organization, and it helps then communicate across the organization, breaking down these silos. I think that leads us in nicely to looking at some case studies. You've seen, okay, who's using this? And now let's look at actual corporations where this has gone in. And I don't think this needs too much of an introduction. We've all heard of Walmart previously before, but I think the revenue last year is about $559 billion. And I won't go into too much detail. I won't look at kind of what's been said by Caroline, but if we look at the challenges, you can see they were stuck in spreadsheets. They had minimal project management knowledge. So touch on the point that CWM is for everyone. They'd siloed communication and they'd no portfolio visibility. So when they came around, they looked at Reich Analyze, they looked at Reich Integrate, and they got deployment from the professional services. And you can see some of the results. So they're collaborating, the collaboration is effective, and it's easy for projects and tasks. So you go down to that granular level of tasks. Reich request forms allow the right people to be engaged. So again, you're speeding up the time of projects going live. And then our communication on tasks and projects is all in one location. So it's not dispersed across Slack, Teams, WhatsApp, or emails. And you can see the success matrix then, but the success matrix metrics, excuse me. So you've got instant project approval, eliminated rework, reduce emails, and one location for all project pipeline, as well as fewer calls. I think that's a very important one, that the less time we can spend on calls and sending emails, the more kind of meaningful work and productive work we can get done. And then the other use case I like to talk about, sadly now, I don't think in the last 18 months we've got to use Airbnb as much as we'd all like. But hopefully now we're kind of coming out the other side of it. So hopefully people can start to use it again. But again, let's look at the challenges that Airbnb faced. They were connecting multiple teams in multiple locations. They wanted to streamline process to create thousands of assets, and they needed a centralized work management hub. Okay, and what were the solutions that they were looking for? Reporting, dashboards, workflows, and write proof. So if you again look at the results of this of Airbnb, you can see that streamlined processes, the dashboards and reports have eliminated constant queries about status. So we're speeding up time. We don't need to reach out to people. We don't need to keep bombarding information. It's all there for us, and it's easy to see. And you can see everyone is more efficient due to improved cross-functional collaboration and communication. And if people were to take anything from today and me talking about Reich, it's so much ability to improve cross-functional collaboration and communication. I think organizations need to break down silos, and I think we all need to work together as one, because we essentially all have the same message of how we're pushing on and what we want to do. Which leads us into the point of Citrix and the Reich vision, and where we're essentially going. And this is a conversation I do like to have. When we look at where we've essentially been and what Citrix have said for the last 30 years, this is something I'm extremely passionate about, and I really do think this is how we're going to shape work and where the future is going to go. But I think the message we've kind of said for the last while, work's not a place, it is the thing you do. And it's been our mantra for quite a while. And you can see in 1991, we initially started remote access. If you move on to 2010, you can see we've got virtual computing, so the VDI. In 2013, big year, iPads came into enterprise, and we had proliferation of different mobile devices. And we also put customer services in the cloud in 2013. 2017 was bringing together the full secure digital workspace. And then 2019, we can see the workspace for intelligence. And this all says to me, when we look back over the time, we have done an excellent job, and we've worked really hard to get people the tools they need to do their job. So the Workspace app is a fantastic tool, secure digital perimeter, to get people everything they need to do their job. But now, if we look at 2021 and the next 30 years, what we've acquired with Reich is the work management piece. So we were very good at getting people what they needed to do their work. But now what I believe is we've acquired the tool that helps people do their work. Okay, so it all lives within Reich. So it's helping to support effective work execution and collaboration across any work type, whether it be individual tasks or projects. So I believe now we're at the point of shaping the future of work. And it is down to this message of the future of work that Citrix and Reich are going to build. And if you look at like the protect and optimize operations, you've seen that with Citrix. The pandemic is the perfect example. Organizations were able to continue to working during the last 18 months without them going remote due to the implementation of Citrix. If we look at the kind of business growth and innovation, digital transformations, we're looking at Workspace app, partnering with GTM innovations. This is kind of third-party access where we can clearly define the lines for third-party access. And then agile transformation, if people need, say, heavy, intense applications, we can provide that to the users. So we are giving them this kind of agile approach, digital approach. But now we've acquired Reich, this adds to essentially our bread and butter. So Reich reduces any inefficiencies, it increases visibility, it increases productivity and collaboration. And essentially Reich is the last piece in the puzzle for the most valuable assets within organizations, which essentially is the people. So we're allowing the increased collaboration, increased visibility, employee productivity will go up, and engagement. And it's all been given within that secure digital perimeter. And I think the message that I've heard since I started in day one was any user, any location, any device, any application. And I love the Workspace app. I love what Citrix do, and I love all our kind of our products that we offer within the cloud. But now we have Reich, and it's any work type. And it's all living within the secure digital perimeter. And that's the position. And that's the kind of future of work where I see us going. I live now within Reich. I assign my tasks, I assign projects, everything's within Reich. And when we look at the different integrations we can do, I think, to be honest, the world is kind of our oyster at this. And I really do think we're going to shape the future of work with this. Something that I do like to note that's happened within our team is some published templates. So the Center of Excellence is a US-based team, but we have members in the US and EMEA. And we publish these templates within the Reich marketplace. So anyone who has a Reich licenses currently can access this. So we've got cloud migration, which I actually want to touch on in the demo. So I've put the demo to focus on this. We have app remediation, user adoption, the mergers and acquisitions, and then the Citrix virtualization on Google Cloud. So all these templates are going live, and we are working on more to put into the Citrix, put into the right marketplace. Just before I do move on to the demo, let me just move that over. Is there any questions at this point? I have kept an eye. I just opened the comments. What's the cross tagging? I'll look at. Yeah, I'm going to address some of these now. Internally soon. Perfect. And I think, Mohammed, you've asked how Rike brings together your favorite tools together to simplify work. We'll touch on a little bit in the demo, but I think Rike Integrate is that powerful tool where we're using Salesforce, we're using Jira, we're using ServiceNow. The Rike Integrate is that central hub of how we can bring all these tools into one and give everyone the single source of truth to allow us to all to work. But the cross tagging is actually just what I'm about to explain. Because before we do go into the demo, I think this slide is extremely important, and this is something that helped me grasp it. When you go to Rike.com as a SaaS, you'll initially be greeted with your landing page. Okay, so on the left-hand side, you'll see the inbox. So anytime you get assigned tasks or notifications, it'll populate in this section here. In the middle section, you'll have your spaces, and the best way to think of spaces is the teams you belong to. And on the right-hand side is the features within Rike, so reports, dashboard, and they're the two I kind of want to focus on today. And in the middle, so when we're working down from the teams, so spaces being the teams you belong to, if we look at something like IT PMO, an IT PMO may have an active projects, project request, or closed projects folders. So we'll have all these projects, or all these folders where we have projects which reside in. So in active projects for an IT PMO, we may look at the Citrix Cloud migration being a project. And I think we can all agree on this call, there's lots of tasks that go into a Citrix Cloud migration. So what's really good about this, and something that I started to use so much, is if I'm working on a particular GCP project or an Azure project, and there's a particular task related to that or security that I don't know the answer to, and I need assistance, or I need to assign the task, could be a GCP specialist or an Azure specialist, I can assign them that particular task. And all they will get is that task. So they're not being bombarded with a whole Citrix Cloud migration. There's not kind of unnecessary or non-relevant information to them. It's exactly what they need to see to do their job. And again, if so be, we can share the project with multiple people, or we can share the folder with multiple people. And I see, Imran, you've asked about cross-tagging. And if we look at something like the Citrix Cloud migration project, and we're working in the IT PMO space, but we have, say, a cloud security space for a cloud security team, we can cross-tag this project from the IT PMO space into the cloud security space. And it's exactly the same work. It just resides in two locations. So we don't have to do double the work. What's done via the IT PMO space, what they put in, will be represented in the cloud security team, and vice versa. I do have a little bit of an example of it as well when we do move into the live demo. So I'm keeping an eye on the chats, and I don't see any questions, which is good. How about performance? Could you just elaborate on that slightly? Mohammed, when you have a chance, and I'll keep an eye on the chat for that. But what I will show is, this looks fairly familiar. Everyone can still see my screen. It looks like the Workspace app. So all I'm going to do from this point of view, this is literally how I do my work day in, day out, is I'll go to Rike, I'm going to populate it. And you see it is going to load on another screen. So I'll bring it in and make sure everyone can see that. Let me just use my 2FA to log in, and then we'll run through what it looks like. Okay. So that's going to log in, and we're going to be greeted with this right space. So left-hand side is, again, you're going to see your inboxes. So any tasks I've been assigned, you can see I'm working on my Citrix instance here. The spaces in the middle is any team I'm a member of. And then on the right-hand side, you've got some of the features. So what I want to show is, within the Rike marketplace, we have the Citrix Cloud migration. I've built this out specifically for today, just to show how we can manage quite a large-scale project quite easily through a space here in this section here. So if we click on the space that is the Citrix Cloud Migration, you can see I have this set up as a private space with just myself as a member. But again, I could add multiple people if they needed to see the whole layout of the project. So from this point of view, you see we have a folder set up for the Citrix Cloud Migration. And within that, we have the additional services, which I'll touch on in a minute, or we have the Citrix Cloud Migration. Okay, so the Citrix Cloud Migration is set up as a project within the Citrix Cloud Migration folder. And within that, we've got kind of 5 different stages. So we've got the get to know right, plan, build, roll out, manage, and optimize. So if we look at something, a get to know right, this is a project we populated automatically in that when a new customer, say, for example, purchases right, you can see all the level of tasks and all the relevant information they may want to know that we feel is beneficial for them to know about right. So if we look at something like dashboards, which again we'll touch on in the demo, very powerful tool to get insights into work. They have a description straight away, and they have a link to more information. And you can see I've got this, and I've assigned this across my team that I'll be working with on the Citrix Cloud Migration. And I've collaborated with Carl at this point here, that I've mentioned him, and I think we can use this for the other project we're working on with HR. So I talk to Carl 4 or 5 times a day, every day of the week. If I said that to him on Tuesday, likely by Friday, that message will be kind of gone in the wind, essentially. And you can see how different tasks are built out. We can assign from this point here, or we can assign from this point here, so you can add people to it. We've broken the project down by plan, build out, plan, build, or rollout. So if we look at something like plan in a Citrix Cloud Migration, we have all the tasks we typically need to do before we go into any kind of in-depth analysis, or any in-depth build out, like the Citrix, like CVATs, for example. So we have all the particular tasks we need to do. I've assigned them across the team. So a task may have subtasks, and we can look at this. And I think Mohammed, I see that point there, has a team performance with collaboration tool. I could get this on day 1, and I could assign this across my team on day 1. So there's no need to have that kind of team meeting, which will take an hour out of everyone's day. So the performance is already enhanced by getting the project going live a lot quicker. And then from this point, we each have our own task that we need to work on. And then we look at the likes of dashboards and reports, we can get more clear insights into the team's performance and how we're doing. And as well, if I need help on something, so for example, I'm looking at the Citrix Cloud Learning Series, I can reach out to colleagues within this section here. I can mention them and ask them particular questions, so we can kind of collaborate on that point, and it keeps that information relevant there. And if we look at something like the CVADs, the plan phase, and we go into this element of the folder, this is typically everything we'd expect to see within the CVADs phase, within the plan. Okay, architectural decision, CVAD prerequisites. Everything is here for us to see, and we build it out, assign across the team, and we can change the status. So we can see this one has got all the relevant information we need. It's in progress. It's highlighted as red because we've gone past that date. So we can mark that as complete, and we'll work through the workflow, and you can see it keeps an audit trail the whole time. And again, it's the same type of layout when we look at build. You can see we've got CVADs here in this point here. And this is every step you would expect to see within a cloud migration build out phase. And like we mentioned earlier, we've got the different views. This is extremely powerful. I personally find when we look at a Gantt chart, we can see the steps of where we need to go and where we're looking to be. We can also set dependencies. So if we move configuring host connections, the create images obviously will have to happen after that. So they're dynamic to one another. If we move this date, that date will move in conjunction. And if we look at the task, we've gone from a list view to a Gantt chart view, but this end task is exactly the same. The layout is the same, and we can collaborate and we can change workflows the same. So the very, very end point, that task is the same no matter whether we go through board views for Kanban approach or tables or list. And then we can also set approvals on this. So I can set an approval process. Can you approve the images? We set that up there. I can set due dates on this. Give it 1 second. Set the due date. I can set the approvers. And then if I have documents, I can upload in this section here. I could add files that need to be done, like screenshots, document, whatever it may be, and then Carl will get a notification that he's a document that he needs to approve. And it's the same with rollout. It's very much built in the same pattern. I think when we're doing rollouts of projects, the most important thing, one of the most important elements is obviously completing it on time, but end user feedback. If this is something that's going to our employees, what's the feedback going to be like? So we can build out request forms, and I'll show you them now. So we've seen kind of rollout within the space itself. If we're to go to settings, you can see we can build out custom fields or workflows depending on the project, custom flows depending on if we need, say, whatever it may be, budgets, different elements in that point of view, and then request forms. So end user feedback. So we have a folder created for end user surveys. And if we go back here, just 1 second, and we look at request forms, you can see end user feedback. These forms are completely customizable. We can add in as many questions as we like. We can add in multiple pages. And then when someone creates this request form, this is going to automatically populate into the folder I've set up in the cloud migration. So we can set the status to, we can set it to new. We can set this to come straight into me. So I get a notification anytime someone's done the end user feedback. And then we can set an approval process if it needs to go through my manager after each one that comes in. So and again, they can be public facing links, so that person necessarily doesn't have to have a write license. So we can do the migration for our power users. We don't have to add them to write. We keep that to the IT team and still get information from the rest of the team of how things are going. So it's a really powerful tool. And then you can see, Imran, if we touch on your point of cross tagging, you can see we've got plan, build out, rollout, and it's mainly focused on kind of CVADs with ADM as well there. But if you look at something like, let's take content collaboration, you can see we have build, manage, plan, but they're all within the content collaboration phase, and it's not tied in to the Citrix Cloud Migration. So all we have to do in this cross tag function is we open this folder, and you can see where this resides. It resides in content collaboration. But for this section here, we want to add this to the build phase. We want to add this to the plan phase. Add this to the plan phase. And we want to make sure I've got the right Citrix Cloud. I think that's the right one. And then you'll see in the plan phase now, we've added content collaboration. So we've cross-tagged it. It's still within the content collaboration and additional services, but it's now part of our Citrix Cloud Migration, and we know it's an element we need to work on. And it doesn't have to be something that's in the same space. It could be in multiple spaces. Okay, so for example, this plan phase could go, we could cross-tag this, not only with the cloud migration, but we can maybe want to cross-tag this to the cloud security team or whatever it may be, or management. That's quite easily done by cross-tagging from this section here. So you can see, cloud migrations are difficult projects. There's a lot that goes into them, but you can see how it can be easily broken down, how it can speed up the rollout of the project, get clear insights of how everything is going. And then if we look at something like building dashboards to relation to your cloud migration, we can build them as such by looking at work by status. So I've built out this dashboard to have any work or any task within the cloud migration that's new, that's in progress or completed. And it's great to see what's in progress, it's great to see what's completed, but what we mainly are concerned about is building out the dashboard. We can see, okay, what's on hold and what's overdue. Why it's so important is we have a lot of tasks. There's a lot of work that goes into this, but if we can get a widget that's dedicated, and we can build out these custom widgets that are dedicated to see what's on hold. This is what I want to try and get ahead of. This is what I want to see early on in the project. Why is this on hold? I can click on it. I can go into the task. Again, that end view is still exactly the same. We'll let that load for a second. It's obviously got nervous that it's a live demo. Close that down, we'll try again. Yeah, 1 second. Perfect. And you can see, okay, Niall's assigned, it's on hold. He hasn't left any information here, and we can keep it necessary. We can keep it relevant to just me and Niall. Assignment here. Why is this on hold? We shed some information. whatever it may be. And in that sense, now I'll get that in its inbox and it's relevant to the task. And I think it's as important as well for overdue, and we can also do it by work by assignee. So still looking at the dashboard point of view, you can see what's today, what I have to work on, what Pauline, colleague, and Carol has to work on. But we can see there's probably too many tasks assigned to Pauline, so we can simply just drag and drop, and I'll reassign that. So that automatically reassigns it to Carol. And then we can also build out these widgets. If the additional members come on the team, or we assign to additional members throughout, we can add on this section here. It's task by assignee. Figure. We'll look for Olivia, who's doing some work on this. Again, we want to choose the project, which is the CUGC Citrix Cloud Migration. There it is. So we'll go with the whole space. And you can see, okay, Olivia has 11 tasks. You want to add that to the dashboard. I don't want to filter by date. And you can see all Olivia's tasks come in here. And we can see what she's working on. So it's a very powerful tool in that sense. So that's looking at a project, it's looking at a dashboard, how we can build it down. The very last point, and I know I'm just on time here, is reports. So how does management get good insights into what's going on? And this is coming back to the right analyze piece we discussed earlier. You've got the project portfolio overview. So VPs want to see everything. You've got project status, which is what I want to focus on now. Productivity analysis, which is seeing any bottlenecks. But I want to see how this Citrix migration is going. So I want to go project status. I want to select the folder. I want to select the project. These take a minute to populate. So I've actually just populated in another tab. Built this out earlier. And you can see this is every piece of information that goes into that Citrix Cloud migration. So how many tasks are there, what's active, and what's overdue. And it's giving management the ability to get ahead of, again, what could potentially go wrong. We can see where the workload is spread out. The fact that Niall and Pauline appear to have quite a heavy workload here. You can see the task completion progress, and then we can get a list of tasks here. But we can build out more widgets within this as well. So again, we can go customize, or we can take straight from the pre-populated list. So it's a range of tools we can see. It's a range of different options. And we can also filter on each one. So if we look at something like, okay, that's everything that's in progress by Pauline. So let's have a look at assignee. You can see we'll take everyone and we'll get everyone back in the project at this point. So we've just seen Pauline, but now we've got everyone within the team working on this. And we can go, that's everything in progress. If we wanted to, we could change that to everything that's complete, or we could also change that to what's overdue. So this is what we want to get ahead. And then we can click on it, we can get the details, and it'll essentially will bring us straight into that task. So we're very much not having to sit everyone down on team meetings. It can all be done from that one location. And this report can generate clear and concise insight into what's going on within the different projects we're taking on. Now, that is a snippet of Rike and some of the features we have. We are just slightly over time now, so I will finish at that point here. This has been an absolute pleasure. I really do appreciate the time today. And I hope you will reach out if you do want a demo or you want to discuss this future of work, where I believe kind of Citrix and Rike are going to go. It's a conversation I really do like having. But again, Ronnie, I see you back on camera. So thank you very much.
Okay, now thank you. That was great. Great detailed, in-depth view of Rike, one that you can continue now in one of the roundtable sessions that will be kicking off very shortly. There'll be 3 sessions from our 3 technical presenters. Each will be available to answer all of your questions in the respective roundtable room. Feel free to join, turn on your camera, interact with the presenters. And again, this is also a great time to visit the sponsor booths if you haven't already answered all their questions and get last chance to get in for those prize draws. And after the roundtables, do join us for our prize giving and happy hour session, where I believe there will be some wine tasting. Okay, so I hope everyone got their list of what we could potentially be tasting. And and stay tuned to see what's going on. That's great. We'll hand over to the roundtables now. Thank you.